instead of having a public reading in person, we had that public reading done via Zoom. And the 6 proposals were read at 2:01 via the Zoom video conference meeting. We had ComCam Playground and Fitness Solutions for $199,999. Bars Recreation for $264,729. Carolina Parks and Play for $267,747. Bliss Products and Services, Inc. for $282,450. Churches, Recreation and Design for $289,609. And Great Southern Recreation for $298,682. The committee, which was comprised of Linda Roper, and Linda, who else was on that committee besides yourself? The memo doesn't speak to that. Could you unmute for a second and tell me? I think it was Robbie Anderson from the Parks Department.
It was Robbie Anderson from Parks Department. Adam, I don't know his last name. He's also from the Parks Department. And then Gary with Downtown Operations.
Correct. And so the committee met and reviewed after following. They reviewed the proposals first, and then they met to discuss what the separate evaluations were on each of those proposals. And they decided at that point that they needed to bring in via Zoom the top 3 who did presentations on April 21, also via the Zoom video conferencing. And those 3 were Bars Recreation, Bliss Products and Services, and Great Southern Recreation. Following that meeting, and there was a lot of discussion and evaluation of not only the proposals, but each of their presentations. And although the committee settled on Great Southern Recreation, primarily, even though they weren't the lowest bidder, they were the most responsible bidder that had provided a proposal. They met all of the criteria regarding the waterfront park in terms of the look, keeping in character with the park. Linda can address any additional specific questions that you may have regarding that. And what we're bringing before you is the request to move forward with Great Southern Recreation and begin to negotiate with them on where we can make modifications to the original design and bring it back in line. It is within the grant budget costs. We've checked with the grantor and feel that we can still complete the other 2 phases even with this proposal, and feel that they have the best references and can do the job. So also within the time frame, we've got a tight time frame on when this grant comes to completion, and so they have committed to have this project completed by July 31st. So with that, I'll entertain any questions or any specifics regarding it can be addressed to Ms. Roper.
Kathy, if I just could jump in too, that once we negotiate a contract from them, that will come back to council for approval.
Correct.
So we will
Which
Kathy,
is why the contract is not in the file or in the agenda package.
right.
Kathy, I had one question. It says in here that the company, one of the I guess, reasons that they selected Great Southern was their commitment to warranty the product. How long is that warranty on the equipment?
Linda, can you address that?
I can address that. Each component has different time frames, and some are lifetime warranties. Some components are lifetime warranties, and others range from anywhere from a year to 25 years, and then or lifetime. So it just depends on what components you receive, as well as they have a warranty on their poly coating, the paint that's on it, that it'll resist salt, and at a very long. I think it's a 5-year warranty on that, which is one of the longest. Several of the companies didn't even offer that type of coating. So the durability on the equipment was superior. Not that all the other companies didn't have good products. It's just that their warranty also included labor to replace. So if you called them and said, hey, we have this piece that needs to be replaced, they don't just send you the piece. They come back and they install it properly. And that's all part of the warranty. So
Okay.
very strongly that was a very important component because of all the safety concerns you have with playground equipment.
Now, is this going to be a replacement of what's already there, or is this going to be a new design, new equipment, added features?
All of the above. It's removing old equipment and replacing it with new equipment.
Okay.
And a whole new different look. One of the reasons why we chose this company to negotiate with was their design was a little bit more iconic and wasn't a cookie cutter type of equipment. They actually added some really nice features, which at this time we're not ready to present the design because we're actually during the interview we talked about changing it a little.
Going to be a replacement already there.
That's why we chose this company to negotiate with their.
Not sure what that is. That must be coming
It was an echo feed.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Any questions of Ms. Roper
Yeah.
or the city manager? I would just ask, is any of the equipment that will be removed salvageable and appropriate to put somewhere else?
unfortunately, it's not. With the changing times of the compliance for safety, if you put it anywhere else, you have to make sure that it meets all the safety guidelines. And unfortunately, even though it's only 2006, I believe that it was installed, it's very difficult to make sure that it's got all of those requirements to install.
Okay,
It's a whole lot more money.
thank you.
Another big issue, Mayor, is that our insurance company does not want reinstalling of playground equipment that's that old.
Gotcha. Mr. Murray, you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I apologize. My internet connection dropped and I missed some of that. So if I ask a duplicate question, what's the city match on this particular part of the project?
The city match overall, there's a $500,000 city match on the grant and $500,000 from the grant. It's $1 million in total.
Okay.
And so of the, if they're negotiating, the Great Southern Recreation's proposal is $298,682. Supposing there's no negotiation, that's the dollar amount, it'd be half of that would be the city's match.
So approximately 150,000.
Approximately 150,000, most likely less.
And do we have that? Is that budgeted in general fund?
No, all of this has already been budgeted for in the capital projects fund and is an active capital project.
Okay, I reviewed the capital projects list that you provided in the work session, and I didn't see the playground equipment listed on the CIP.
The CIP is not active capital projects. The CIP is capital improvement plan of things that the city would like to accomplish, but does not have the funding for yet.
Well, but historically,
Capital projects
we've
are
had
active.
We've had
Capital
active
project-
projects.
Capital projects are active, funded, fully funded capital.
Well, for example, the Carteret Street facility improvements are listed, but that's not a fully funded project yet.
That's on your capital improvement plan. It's not fully funded.
Right, right. Well, I guess my question is spending $150,000 on playground equipment out of the general fund, given our current financial situation?
Not a general.
It's not out of the general fund. The money has already been set aside and that came out of capital two years ago as part of our commitment to the grant.
Okay,
So we are committed to $500,000 on the $500,000 grant. If we don't spend that $500,000, we have to give the money, the corresponding money back to the grantor.
Okay. What is the timing for the grant closeout? When does the money have to be expended?
30.
I believe shortly after July 30th, which was why it was important to select a grantor. Linda, do you have the exact date of when the grant closes out?
The grant closes out in September. It's the end of September 26th.
Okay. Any conversation with the agency about a potential extension given the financial circumstances?
COVID-19.
Yes.
We briefly had that conversation with the grantor at the state level. Linda and I did last week. And we don't think we're going to need one, but they did indicate that that would be something they would entertain, but.
Okay.
They indicated that they wanted to revisit it around July.
July 2020.
Yes.
Okay. And the relieving platform, as I recall, it was approximately 3 and some change for, what was
The total cost of the relieving platform repairs were $652,000, of which $326,000 was from the grant and $326,000 was from the city.
Okay. Okay. And the other component of that project was the Scott Street.
Scott Street entrance and some playground and some swing sets.
Okay. In Scott Street entrance, has that been delayed or are we still moving forward on that part of the project?
Linda, you want to address that? Because
We're going to move forward on that. It's just a redesign to flatten the circle and beautify that particular area, as well as the replacement of all the swings and chains, which is also included. We will go out for bid on the swings.
And if you recall, when we went into this grant, the prioritization of the grant funds was number one, to take care of the relieving platform and get that accomplished. Because
Right.
at that time, we weren't quite sure how much that was going to end up costing until they completed the dives and got under the water.
Right.
And that piece has been done. This is the second priority from the grant, followed by the swing sets and the Scott
Okay.
Street. But when Linda and I looked at it last week, we're confident that all 4 components will be able to be accomplished.
Okay. But hypothetically, if we decided to not move forward with the playground equipment, we could reallocate the approximately $150,000 match.
No,
No,
you can't.
no, you cannot,
Why not?
because it's part of the grant application. The grant application specified that those are the components of the grant. That's why the grant was awarded, is based on what we were going to do with those resources. At the same time, those resources were committed by the city and set aside and removed out of the general fund, placed in the capital projects fund at the full $500,000 match. And now, and so we're committed to expending the resources in accordance with the grant application.
Okay.
Any other questions? I mean, I don't want to second guess Stephen, but I think wheels churning after our budget conversation is if we could get an extension, we could preserve cash until we're more comfortable where we are. But
Well, yeah, exactly, Mayor. I'm appreciative that we have the grant, and it's not lost on me that there's half of the money there provided by some other agency. But given the conversation we just had in work session about the financial position we may or may not be in, if we had 3, 4, 5 months of an extension to better understand, I think 4 months from now we'll have a much better understanding of our financial position and what revenues are going to come in. I think right now it's a big question mark for us. So I understand the grant part of the process, the committed fund part of the process now, but I'm having a hard time feeling that it's responsible for us to spend $150,000 on playground equipment. And we're going to delay all other capital projects which may be prioritized a little higher than playground equipment. And I'd like to think that since it was a state agency that granted this, there would be some willingness to work with us on a delay or on an extension of time if needed.
I can address that. The funds are actually federal dollars. They're land water conservation funds from the federal government. There is a time frame associated with that. So even though our immediate grantor is the state of South Carolina's Parks and Tourism Department, those dollars are federally attached, and there is a time period of availability before those funds lapse. I don't know what that is, but I do know that when you get a grant and you signed a commitment letter, and regardless of what the financial situation, and you turn that grant in, it does count against you for future grant applications. So that's the other component.
Yeah, I don't think Mr. Murray, and certainly when asking the question, we want to turn her back on that. And basically, your conversation was with the state because they were managing the federal dollars.
They're
So-
our primary recipient.
So-
They're the ones who awarded us the
When you
grant.
dig deeper, they would have to get the federal approval, probably. So we're probably, what I'm hearing is we're probably too far into this. And
Yeah, it's obvious that we're too far into this. I mean, this money was committed a while back. I
I think that's an assumption. I think that's an assumption on our part without talking to the respective granting agencies. That we're obviously in the middle of a pandemic that has changed a number of priorities, not the least of which are revenue streams. So I was simply asking if there was an opportunity to talk to those granting agencies to ask for a 3 or 4 or 5 month extension until we have a better handle on our finances. Lolita Huckabee Watson is asking on Facebook, would the public have an opportunity to comment on playground design?
I can answer that, Stephen. That was done. We had surveys done, meetings done. There's a whole 20 pages, I'm guessing, Linda knows better, survey, the ages of the kids, etc. So that was done months ago.
is that, Bill, is that on the website?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Linda. I don't think it's on the website.
I don't think it was on the website, but what we did was we advertised at the first of the year for a citizen survey. We did a survey and received upwards of, I think it was like 300, 400 responses. We included that in our RFP so that the proposers could actually respond with a design that met all of that criteria. That's one of the, whether it was slides, whether it had a theme, those types of things on the survey that we did. We also had we advertised a workshop in the for January, the middle of January, I believe. And that we advertised it, we had it all ready to go, and we had one citizen show up for it. We put it on social media, we put it at the end of the afternoon, we put it at 6 o'clock at night to allow people to show up and comment on the design. So what to include. So the committee is actually making sure that it complies with that citizen survey and the wishes and hopes of the citizen.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Thank you, Kathy. Anyone else? Okay, we'll vote. Mr. Cromer,
Aye.
Mr. McPhee,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
No.
Ms. Sutton.
Aye.
I'm going to vote aye as well. We'll move on to resolution of the City of Beaufort urging all businesses and individuals to closely follow all the government McMaster's executive orders regarding COVID-19, including Order 2020-28, reopening retail businesses previously determined to be non-essential.
So moved.
I have a motion. And a second.
Do you have a second?
Yes.
Okay, I just would explain that this is exactly the same resolution you passed before. I will take the blame, did not put an expiration date, and to protect our FEMA possible FEMA reimbursement, we need to have an expiration date for things that we're doing. So the only change in here is on the last page, number 4. It said the resolution shall remain in effect until July 12th. Unless the COVID emergency orders is rescinded by the governor. I chose 60 days. The county council last night, as an example, passed one for themselves. They only extended theirs 30 days. My view was, we didn't know how long this was going to last. It gives us coverage for FEMA reimbursement should we have to. And if the governor pulls the state of emergency 3 days from now, this expires. It's the only change in this. I also want to add, I really want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Ian Scott, who contacted me immediately when he first saw what was posted and had a question, and I appreciated his looking at it. And he sent an email to me this morning or yesterday saying how he supports this because it meets with what they're trying to do.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, Mr. Cromer,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Mr. McPhee,
Aye.
Ms. Sutton,
Aye.
and Ms. Roper, you're looking at me like you get to vote, but you don't. So, and I vote yes, so it passes unanimously. Ordinance, excuse me. Ordinance and leasing transitional parcels as parks and other properties owned by the city to restaurants to provide outdoor dining services. This would be the first reading of something that was explained during or discussed and explained during our work session.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Prokop, do you want to just do a short for those who didn't watch the work
This
session?
is a 90-day lease beginning in June for our restaurants who have property that could be expanded for the dining under the new regulations. And again, it's only good for the 90 days, $10 a month rental. The key to this is by having this, it extends their rental of their premises, and we believe covers their license to serve alcohol. Each restaurant is being approached by Linda Roper, and a separate lease document, which you will see will be developed, and they will sign that. We are granting them the period to start as soon as possible. And each restaurant has a little different shape, but it's up to 400 square feet. And this is something that we feel will help our restaurants as they start to get back on their feet and we move forward.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have any questions?
I guess I just have one. Bill, on these lease agreements, is there a hold harmless and indemnity agreement as part of that?
That will be part of the lease. It'll be our standard lease terms. Plus, again, they have to make sure they get their own license, their liability for any damage there. It's their own tables and equipment they put. All we're doing is leasing them the space.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll start with Ms. Sutton.
Aye.
Mr. McPhee,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Mr. Cromer,
Aye.
and I vote aye, which makes it unanimous. Okay, we're down to the city manager. Shouldn't say we're down. We're up to the city manager's report.
Okay, well, what I want to state is, I'm sure that we're all happy to see our city start to see some businesses opening and our outdoor activities beginning to start up. But of course, we all need to keep the importance of social distancing in our minds and in our actions. The financial effects of COVID-19 and on the states and local government is huge. 88% of the cities in the United States are anticipating major revenue shortfalls, which is leading to cutbacks in services provided. Some examples: Arlington, Texas, an $18 million budget deficit. Houston, Texas, $170 to $200 million budget deficit. Louisville, Kentucky, a $240 million loan needed to keep the government functioning. Seattle, Washington, $210 to $300 million budget deficit are being faced. So we have problems, but thank goodness they're not that size. In most cases around the US, communities with a large tourism base are seeing significant significant hardships on top of increased expenditures to respond to this virus. I point this out so that it is clear to everyone that we are not alone in addressing our needs and moving forward. The path to moving forward is to get there safely, includes a strong commitment to following the rules set forth by the CDC and accepting a sense of personal responsibility. We must be diligent about social distancing, wear a mask in public, wash our hands frequently, stay home as much as we can. It is up to all of us to do this for our own safety, for our friends, our coworkers, our loved ones, and for the greater good. While we all have been focused on COVID-19 impact, we need to keep our eye on our number one goal, which is economic diversity. While we all want our hotels, restaurants, and retail shops back and running as soon as possible, we need to continue to embrace our strategic goal, number one, economic diversity. We need to create higher paying jobs and continue to focus on delivery, more resilience through greater diversity in our employer base. Continuing to develop our robust tech and digital sector, like the Buford Digital Corridor, the Low Country Cybersecurity, Glassworks, Geismar, Dust Solutions, to name a few, is not only wise, but especially timely and necessary given the current circumstances. Buford is well positioned to take advantage of several trends being accelerated by COVID-19. As Councilman Murray said, we must keep our eye on the future. And continue to work closely with the Buford Economic Development Corporation and the county to make our area a place that employers want to be and show them that we have the innovation and welcoming economy. We also have a great opportunity to expand our reputation in the health field. We have an educational system starting with our high school that offers many opportunities in the medical field for nursing careers and other healthcare worker career choices. We have a hospital that is growing and has a need for an educated staff. We have several manufacturers that are now supplying products in the medical field, and we've seen this take off during this virus. And we have students, hundreds of students particularly, that want to get into the nursing field. And I believe in South Carolina, if I'm correct, the number was in, I think, 3 years, there was going to be a shortage of 6,000 nurses in the state of South Carolina. We have an opportunity to do something here. We can benefit from this virus, so let's not dwell so much on the impact of the virus, but rather on the opportunities that it presents to us. Let us all continue to work together to build on what we have for the long-term benefit of the city. Next week, I will present to you a balanced, pared-down budget, and I thank you for your comments during the work session tonight, which will help us refine it. I also want to advise you that there will be, and the mayor mentioned this earlier in the work session, that Linda and Rhonda have been working with the hospital on a celebration that the hospital for Hospital Week will be running and honoring Hospital Week. And it is planned for this Friday, the 15th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I don't have all the details yet, but I think it's going to be sort of a drive-by type of thing. Linda may be able to tell you more details, but that is happening. I also like to share some good news in times like this. The good news tonight is that our building permits through the month of April are running 50% ahead of last year, both on residential and the commercial side. We collected $96,000 in permit fees this year compared to $66,000 last year through the month of April. And as an example, we had 34 new residential homes this year, and last year 12. In addition, we had 7 new businesses sign up for a business license in the month of April. To me, this shows that we may have taken a hit from the virus, but we have not been knocked down. And I want to thank again all our employees for keeping us safe and the city parks and streets looking good during this past few months. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody any questions of the city manager? Doing a great, you and your guys are doing, your guys and women are doing a great job, and and we thank you, Bill. A number of things, but I guess if there was one good piece of news, I don't know that anyone else got a chance to look at it, but if you looked at the Senate hearing today, Dr. Fauci actually held up South Carolina as an example of someone who was doing it right. Clearly, thanks to the citizens of Beaufort, we are, by the numbers and by the condition, supplies, readiness of our medical community, in good shape. Everybody's aware that we could slip. As I said during the work session, I believe it was, that as testing increases, cases are going to increase, because that's just how it works. But anyway, we are very, very proud of that. That being said, as I think all of you know, and if you don't, phooey on me because I've been pushing it out there pretty hard, is that with Pride of Place, I started a mask campaign to try to get as many people as possible wearing masks. That's the new normal. All over the Senate hearing today, it was talked about. And that is, anytime you can wear a mask, that you wear it. I had 6 original retailers who came forward and offered to distribute them. We've distributed about 500 in the last, last 4 days. We have more, and fortunately, people have been very generous and donated money to Pride of Place, as well as money that was picked up at some of the retailers by people making a donation. So thank you to the community for pushing this. One thing that's totally out of character with the COVID experience is I don't want people to get so excited they forget to fill out their census forms. We haven't really talked very much about the census, but the census is obviously very critical to us because it's what our official counts are and is part of the formulas by which the federal government allocates federal dollars. So, and you can do it online. I did it. It took about at most 5 minutes. Go to IRS and there's a form there. It will prevent someone knocking on your door, and it will save someone to have to knock on your door in these times. It just takes a few minutes, but I urge people to do it because it really is quite critical. I had a conversation with the school superintendent, and they are making some final decisions, but they have come up with a graduation model that is very respectful of social distancing. A little bit of feedback against it from south of the Broad River, but to my knowledge, not in Beaufort. But they're doing a series of ride-bys and virtual graduations, pictures of students and comments. And they will start, I think, they're staggered, I think, June 1st to the 6th. So look after them and, let's support our students. I guess it's a big deal when you've worked so hard and look forward to doing what they call the walk, to do it. And there are a lot of students are going to be, and families are going to be disappointed that they couldn't do it. I'd only say Beaufort, we're where we are on this thing because everybody's made an effort. I rotate in my newsletters from being perhaps a little too tough to sometimes a little too weak, but that's intentional because tough love is sometimes necessary, but I have a huge, I think we all have a huge, and especially the medical community, a huge appreciation for the way the community has handled itself, and wish that it would continue forward. And that's my report. Who would like to go first? Mr. McPhee, you look like you're thinking.
Mr. Mayor, could I jump in for 1 minute? I'm sorry. We just received an email. I have to correct my statement from the hospital. Beaufort Memorial's decided to forego their parade on Friday and celebrating National Hospital Week. they were so pleased with the event Monday night that they're going to relook at it for next spring to do something like a boat parade. So what I said at 2 o'clock Friday has been canceled while our meeting was going on. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, that's okay. I was out on my bicycle and it was, I thought that a war had started or something, because the whole length of Allison Road was a line of fire trucks, police cars, EMS, all of our public safety from everywhere from Paris Island to everything north of the Broad, Paris Island, Beaufort, Port Royal. It was quite a show, and they were, I guess, staging to do their drive-by for National Nurses Week. Okay, who would like, Mr. McPhee?
I'll be glad to. Only thing I really have to report, this last week, we were able to do a Zoom meeting with the local area transportation group that met, and I was a little surprised when I saw the commentary about the CTCs not doing municipal funding, because that usually conversation with CTC comes before LATS, just because it's part of our transportation survey. But we had not heard that verbiage beforehand, but we were able to Zoom our meetings and go forward. Most of the work was related to a lot of the studies that are going on Highway 170 and 278 bridge expansions, including the funding for the share funds for the Low Country Council of Governments for those road projects along Highway 17, 170, 170 alternate, and 278. So there were good updates from SCDOT and from the engineers involved with that, and their plans moving forward from the NEPA, the Environmental Protection Agency studies that have to be done related to the roadways and the economic impact therein. But it was good that we were able to get together again. We've had about a 2.5 month hiatus on that.
Good, and we can count on you to straighten out the CTC.
Yeah, good luck with that. But
so the city can get our share.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I have a few other cities that might like to join me in that conversation. So.
I bet there are. Ms. Sutton.
I don't have anything to report.
Well, I do. I have a picture of your store with all of your signs on the window about being safe, and you're setting a standard for retail openings, and that is that people are welcome, but they got to keep their eyes open.
Right. It's been interesting. Today was the first day where I had a number that did not want to put a mask on, which is kind of surprising to me. But, it is what it is. I had probably 5 or 6 people that walked out. But, if, we politely ask. And so I think it's the right thing to do.
You even have masks there, don't you?
Yes, I have the mayor's mask, which we're taking donations for, but then I also have bought masks myself because 2 employees, one of which is me, have lung issues. So we take it very, very seriously. And it's important to us to do the right thing at Lulu. So that's what we've been doing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, Mayor, people really appreciate your mask campaign, and the ones that didn't leave us cash, said they were going to go to the website and leave a donation. So.
Well, the people have taken ownership. It's no longer mine. I primed the pump, but I'm really delighted to see the response we've gotten.
Yeah. Well, you started it though. It was your project.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Murray.
On the CPC issue, I think that warrants some further discussion because I think Mayor, maybe you said it, that there's some other towns and cities in the county that would be interested in why they've made that decision. So I'm not sure if that's a work session discussion or maybe we independently bill to talk about next steps. But I think definitely need to talk to the county about why that was made and how our residents who contribute to that fund should get what they deserve, in my opinion. Digital corridor update. We had selected 3 finalists for the new executive director position to replace Shelley Barrett, who's unfortunately leaving us at the end of the month. We got 3 really great candidates. The board is meeting later in the week via Zoom to hopefully settle on one of the candidates. It's going to be a very tough choice But I look forward in the next week or so to introduce you to our new executive director. But very excited about moving forward. And I hope over the next couple of weeks, if you see Shelley via email or one of the digital corridor updates, please thank her for all of her contributions, because we would not be where we are at the digital corridor without her leadership. And she's leaving us in a really great spot to keep moving. I wanted to sort of echo the mayor. I think our citizens deserve a big pat on the back. I think we've absolutely flattened that curve. That has not happened by accident. That has happened by all of us making sacrifices, following protocols. And I think we ought to be very proud of that. So congratulate yourselves and congratulate your neighbors on the work. I don't think we're out of the woods. I think we should still be minding CDC protocols, as the city manager pointed out in his update. But I also think that we need to be slowly, responsibly, and safely reopening businesses to allow those business owners to scratch out what small cash flow that they can. The governmental assistance that's been provided was only for about 8 weeks. Unemployment's a little bit longer than that. That time frame is going to run out pretty quickly. And I think those of us that are small business owners, I know I am, we're looking at our cash reserves and wondering, how much runway we have based on what reserves we have, at what level of revenue will be coming in 3, 6, 9 months. And I, talking to business owners on a daily basis, our own position, and I got to tell you, it's very scary out there. I think every day that goes by, we're seeing cost add up with very little revenues actually coming in the door. So I asked 2 things of residents. One, support small business where you can. If you're still getting a paycheck, you're better off than a lot of folks in our community right now. Try to buy local as much as you can, as safely as you can, but also please extend those in the business community a little grace. Business owners are working under very stressful circumstances that are changing, seems like on a daily basis, whether that's the protocols within their stores, how they can open, the governmental red tape. I mean, it is a very fluid environment, and there's no doubt that I've shaved a couple of birthdays off of my life expectancy over the last couple of months. So if you have an issue as a consumer or a customer of a business, I agree with the mayor in his newsletter. Please go find a manager or find the owner of that business and communicate your thoughts directly or your concerns directly, because I really believe that most of us in the business community want to be responsible. We want to be safe for both our employees and for our customers. But again, extend a little grace out there, because I think we all are in this together and we got to work together to get out of it. And I think we will. And that goes into my next point is I do think there are going to be some tremendous opportunities for Beaufort County and for the city of Beaufort coming out of this. And I think we ought to start looking towards that now, especially as we go through our budget process. In my own businesses, I've kept my sales and marketing functions operating as much as I financially can, because again, that cash flow is important. And so I'd argue that from a city standpoint, we need to have the same perspective in the diversification efforts and the economic development efforts. Those need to be priorities for us. I'm going to try to share my screen here. I think I have that ability. Sean, if I don't, this is I watch all different news outlets. I was watching MSNBC. This is from the payroll provider ADP. This is lowest paying jobs, most exposed. And so this is the monthly percent change in unemployment. And you'll see there that the top of the category is leisure and hospitality. And they saw over a 50% decrease in employment, followed by construction and other services. If you look down near the bottom, manufacturing was affected, but not nearly as dramatically as leisure and hospitality. Same thing with information services, healthcare services, finance and business and professional services. So I think this pandemic is another reason why diversification of our economy to provide a little more stability. This isn't to do away with leisure and hospitality, but simply to augment with other economic drivers in technology or in manufacturing to help us weather these types of storms. Okay, and I'll stop sharing there. So again, I've just asked that we all stay focused on our economic development goals. I believe from tourism and economic development, we've got some real opportunity to capture people into our area when it is safe to do so. But those things take months to lay out, whether it's marketing and advertising or it's a lead generation strategy with the Economic Development Corp. So let's be thinking about how we capitalize and turn this very awful thing into something that could be beneficial for us long term. And thank you for letting me get on my soapbox there for a minute.
Thanks, Stephen. Phil?
Just two quick things. I had a great conversation with Ian Scott, the new head of the chamber, and about us working together moving forward, and also about the opening of business. I think he's right on top of it, and I think he's going to be a good person to lead the chamber going forward. But also to Stephen's point, I was going to end with just saying just continue to support our local businesses, and I've been trying to do my part by ordering out food as often as possible. But we do need to see about doing something to help our local businesses, because Stephen's right. I know we're tourism based, and we're going to be one of the hardest hit, but I also think that because of our location and being a small community like this that's eco-friendly, I think we're going to bounce back a lot quicker than some more densely populated places. So something to look forward to.
Mhm. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Nope. Okay, Mr. Cromer?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Ms. Sutton?
I
Mr. McPhee?
Aye.
Mr. Murray?
Aye.
muted myself because when you were talking,
Pardon?
what? That's okay.
Okay, Mr. Cromer?
Aye.
And I guess I might as well join y'all since I like consensus. I'll vote aye to adjourn as well. So the meeting is before we do that, since we know that Facebook was slightly dragging behind our actual meeting, is there anything that anyone shared that we need to raise?
Well, there was a comment by, my phone died, but I believe it was Sandra Lovett Thompson, and she thanked you, Mayor, for bringing up the census comment, because she said Beaufort right now is at 46% reporting. That was her comment.
Anything else? Okay, the meeting's adjourned. See you next time, if not before.